So let's talk about success. What if I told you the secret to achieving massive goals isn't some crazy new hack or a complicated system? What if it's actually a simple, powerful principle that you can start using, well, right now? Let's dive in. It's a real puzzle, isn't it? We have literally all of human knowledge right in our pockets. If all it took was information, you'd think everyone with a smartphone would be a millionaire with a six-pack. But that's obviously not how it is. So what's the real missing piece here? See, the answer isn't found in another productivity app or some secret life hack you see online. It's about tapping into one of the most powerful and, honestly, most overlooked forces in the entire universe. It's a principle that quietly shapes everything from our finances to our fitness. It's called the compound effect. Okay, let's get into the big idea, which comes from Darren Hardy's amazing book, The Compound Effect. This is the engine behind it all, and you're going to see its foundation is actually deceptively simple. Here it is. This is the formula for what Hardy calls inevitable success. It's not about making one giant, heroic leap. Nope. It's about making small, smart choices and then repeating them with relentless consistency over a good amount of time. You put those three ingredients together, and that's when you get a truly radical difference in your life. And these tiny inputs can lead to just massive outputs. I mean, think about this. A plane leaves New York, and it adjusts its heading by just 2.4 degrees. It doesn't feel any different on the plane, but that tiny shift means it lands in Stockholm instead of Moscow, worlds apart. Or what about this one? You skip one little 240-calorie snack bar every weekday. Seems totally trivial, right? But over a year, that adds up to over 60,000 calories. That's about 8 kilograms or 17.5 pounds gone just from one tiny choice. And that's because the rewards for these small efforts, they're not linear, they're exponential. Take a look at this. In 2023, Taylor Swift was the most streamed artist. Now, was she 4 times better than the 10th most streamed artist, Lana Del Rey? I mean, probably not, but she earned about 4 times more. That slight edge in performance created this huge winner-take-all advantage. A little bit better can mean a whole lot more. So if it's this simple, why isn't everyone doing it? Well, here's the catch. This is the really tricky part. The reason most of us fail is because each individual step feels meaningless. You go for a run for 2 weeks and you still feel overweight. You practice guitar for a month, you're not a rock star. So what do? You quit. And you often quit right before you are about to strike gold. We are just wired for instant gratification, and the compound effect is the ultimate long gain. So before any of the tools or tactics can actually work, we've got to get the foundation right. And it all starts with one single crucial mindset shift. It's non-negotiable. Darren Hardy says this is the single most important lesson from all his work. You have to take 100% responsibility. Not 50% in a relationship, not 99% for your career, 100%. And look, this isn't about whose fault it is. It's about realizing that you and only you have the power to change your situation. This idea is just perfectly captured by Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps. He noticed that even in the most horrific conditions imaginable, people still had one final freedom, the power to choose their response. And if he could find that freedom there, we can for sure find it in our own lives. Until you can truly say, I am where I am because of the choices I made, you can't really turn around and say, and today, I choose differently. Okay, so we've laid the foundation, 100% responsibility. Got it. Now, let's get into the practical tools you can use to actually put the compound effect into motion, starting with the biggest obstacle for all of us, our own unconscious habits. There's this great analogy of a man riding a horse that's just galloping along. Someone on the side of the road shouts, "Hey, where are you going?" And the man shouts back, "I don't know, ask the horse." For so many of us, that horse is the powerful automatic pilot of our habits. So you have to ask yourself, who's really in control here? The honest truth is, most of us are basically sleepwalking. Now, this autopilot isn't all bad. It's what helps us brush our teeth or put on a seatbelt without even thinking about it. But it's also what lets us mindlessly scroll through social media or grab that unhealthy snack or react emotionally in a tense conversation. It's often sabotaging our biggest goals without us even realizing it's happening. So how do you fire this autopilot? The secret weapon is surprisingly simple: tracking. It's true what they say, what gets measured gets managed. The simple act of just writing down what you spend, or what you eat, or how many calls you make, it forces you to be aware. And here's the real key. You have to log it the second it happens. That little bit of friction makes you conscious of the choice you're making, and frankly, it makes it a little bit of a hassle to do the things that work against your goals. Now, even when you're aware of your habits, fighting the bad ones can feel like this constant, draining battle. And that's because most people try to rely on willpower. But here's the problem. Willpower is a finite resource. It runs out. It's just too weak to fight the constant pull of instant gratification. You need something much, much stronger. You need why power. Just imagine this. Would you walk a narrow wooden plank between two skyscrapers for 20 bucks? Of course not, no way. But what if your child was on the other side and the building was on fire? You wouldn't even hesitate for a second. The task is exactly the same, but the why changes everything. The first scenario is about weak willpower. The second unleashes your unstoppable why power. Your why is literally the force you need to get moving. Think back to high school physics, Newton's first law: an object at rest stays at rest. You need a reason that is so powerful, so deeply connected to your core values, that it lights a fire in your belly. It gives you the energy to blast through that initial inertia and start building real momentum. Okay, so once you start building that momentum, the next job is to protect it. Because your journey doesn't happen in a nice, neat little vacuum. You are constantly being hit by powerful external forces that can either supercharge your progress or stop you dead in your tracks. And these influences really fall into three main categories. First, your inputs. That's what you feed your mind. Second, your associations, the people you spend your time with. And third, your surroundings, the physical and digital spaces you live in. So how do you manage them? Well, for your input, you got to turn off the draining 24/7 news cycle and instead feed your mind with books that teach you something valuable. For your associations, you've got to remember that you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And if your circle isn't lifting you up, well, you can make friends with the eminent dead, as the great investor Charlie Munger said. Learn from history's greatest minds. And finally, for your surroundings, clear out the physical and mental clutter that's just draining your focus and your energy. All right, we've covered a lot. We've talked about the big idea, the mindset you need, the tools to get started, and the environment to protect your progress. So now, let's just bring it all together and figure out what this all means for you starting today. So let's just quickly recap the 5 biggest takeaways. First, it all starts with that magic formula. Small, smart choices plus consistency over time equals a huge difference. Second, you have to take absolute 100% responsibility. Third, you get back in the driver's seat by tracking your habits, which makes you conscious of your choices. Fourth, you fuel this whole journey with a powerful why, not flimsy willpower. And finally, you have to actively manage the influences that are shaping you every single day. And really, it all just boils down to this. Success isn't about getting a genius or getting lucky. It's about being willing to do the small, the boring, the unsexy things day in and day out that most other people just aren't willing to do because they don't see that immediate payoff. So I'm going to leave you with this one final thought. The compound effect doesn't start tomorrow or on Monday or next month. It starts with the very next choice you make. So, what is the one small, smart choice you can make today to put this incredible force to work for you?